What's going on, people? This is Terrell Harris and Brooke Harris from the Open Box, where our vision is to be more, make wholeness more accessible. I forgot. Oh man! If you notice, quality is a lot better today. I think we got a new camera, and I'm kind of using my laptop, so hopefully the quality will be a little bit better for you. For those watching online live, there is a little bit of a time lag, so because we wanted to try to take out some of the buffering issues. Then we also have Alyssa with us as well.
Sure.
So we'll get into today's topic, which is called like how you find your purpose, what your calling is, or what it may be, and the character we wanted to use to actually try to figure this out is Moses. Now, a lot of us know about Moses. We know how Moses, split the sea, helped free the people from the Egyptians and Pharaoh. But I think if we look at Moses' call narrative, we can actually learn some things and figure out what our purpose is here on this planet. So, a lot of what I'm going to deal with takes place in Exodus chapters 1 through 5. So just to give you a high-level overview of the beginning of Moses' life, Moses survived a situation that he wasn't meant to. There was an Egyptian decree to kill Hebrew newborns, and because of some of the things that happened, he was placed in a basket and then, floated down the river, and he was saved and avoided tragedy that way. What else happens? I think around the time Moses is 20 or so, he's angry. Well, we see that he reacts out of anger because he actually kills an Egyptian because he sees that the Egyptian is abusing another Hebrew person. So although Moses was kind of raised under like the Egyptian household, he still had a deep sense of care for his people, and because of that, he ends up killing somebody. And then what happens as a result of that? 2 days later, or a few days later, I think some Hebrew individuals point out, like, we saw you kill the Egyptian. So
they had I know what you did last summer.
Basically. So what happens is after that, he runs into the wilderness. So he's like another 20 years before he actually experiences God as a burning bush, and that's what we hear in the story. So to outline the actual what happens with Moses as he has this interaction with God or burning bush, or some people may attribute the burning bush to an angel. There are 5 steps I wanted to look at, right? So first, there is a divine confrontation, or scholars call it a theophany, and this is just a divine confrontation with God. God explains some compassionate things to him, and God also sees the misery of the people. Along with that, like I said, God knows the suffering, so he's going to start to charge Moses with a mission, and I almost think that it's kind of based on what Moses did in the past. So it's like God was almost using, some of that emotion that Moses actually had in order to, rescue the people out of Egypt. So that charge is actually called the commission, and it says in verse 10 that, "So come and I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." So he has direct instructions to bring, the people out of Egypt. What else happens here? And in the commission, Moses is actually returning to a place that he was familiar with. So it's like, although he ran, God sent him back to where he was at to, take on the mission. Now, of course, just like most of us, when we do hear this commission and we know it's from God, there's a struggle and there's a tension. So Moses gave a ton of reasons why he couldn't go and why he wasn't the one. So we hear Moses say that he has issues speaking, so he was scared or nervous that when he went to Pharaoh that he was going to be able to speak. Despite the backwards and forth, God still puts in Moses' heart that he's the one to kind of handle the mission. And then throughout this, there's reassurance, and God actually gives Moses some signs along with the reassurance. So he gives him a staff. The staff turns into a snake. Moses is still a little shaky, a little nervous about the calling. So God says to put your hand inside the cloak. Puts his hand inside the cloak, takes it out. It becomes like white, and then he puts it back in, and it becomes golden color. So throughout this whole backwards and forth discussion, God is actually continuing to give Moses signs about who God is, and the signs are actually, I think, leading Moses to believe and understand that he has a powerful source behind him who's actually commanding him to take on the task. And the final sign is the people actually make it out of Egypt and they make it into the promised land years later. So what I wanted to do is follow that up with some myths about calling or myths about purpose. I think often people, a lot of times people feel that your calling has to happen early in life. And with Moses, we see there's not an actual age limit because he didn't speak to Pharaoh until he was 83. Another thing that I see in the story is that sometimes we think our skill set has to match up at the time we're called. So Moses had this idea, since he couldn't speak or he had a stuttering problem, that he wasn't going to be able to fulfill what God had placed in his heart, or the mission that God was giving him. And then, when he gets with Pharaoh, although he has Aaron to help him out, when he gets to Pharaoh, he's actually able to speak the words. And even looking at it from the outside in, having a stuttering problem probably wasn't gonna, it wouldn't hurt the mission that he was given. But I think that was more just a defense mechanism for Moses. Let's see. And the last myth that I wanted to point out with this whole story is the idea that things that we're called to have to take place in our lifetime. So Moses doesn't reach the promised land, right? So what happens is God tells there's a few times where God is telling Moses to draw water out of a rock, and on the last occasion he tells Moses, speak to the rock and water is supposed to come out, and Moses taps the rock. And because of that, I don't even know why. It's kind of crazy. It's like because of that, he tapped the rock instead of speaking to it. It's like you can't get to the promised land. So I think it was like, I don't know if it was because it's a lack of obedience or what may have you. From my perspective, just looking at it as a reader, I think it's kind of drastic that because Moses didn't speak and he just tapped the rock, that he couldn't reach the promised land. But maybe because of the relationship he had with Moses, I think maybe God had higher expectations of standards for Moses. And I'm hoping that God doesn't have those same expectations for me. So let's pause here. Anything else that stands out about the particular story, or anything, questions that you have, or anything that you know about the story?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
What is calling?
Oh, what is calling? All right. So the reason I entitled it purpose and calling, because I think a lot of times we associate calling with Christianity or something as it relates to ministry. So when I hear calling, I also hear purpose. So like for me, it's the reason why we're here, because I think we're all charged with a different mission. Oftentimes we don't necessarily hear it, or maybe we're not paying attention to it, but I think calling relates to our divine purpose for being here, the reason we're here, and what we're placed on the planet and what we're placed on the earth to do. Do you have any input on that?
Okay.
What else? Anything else?
No, I mean, I think I think you're right. I think some people would look at calling as if, maybe that's not everybody's language. That's why I wanted to talk about a definition of what that actually is. Because I think some people do call it purpose or the reason I'm here, or related to some form of meaning or something. So that's why I just wanted to go to the basics.
Yeah.
What is that?
So even to unravel it a little bit, so the story of Moses is real, movie-like. We see it in the movie. We see it. Who played Moses in this last movie? It was Batman. Batman played Moses.
Oh,
Christian Bale played Moses. So we see these cinematic presentations of Moses. You see Moses split seas, and you see locusts and all this stuff like that. But I want to let the people know, us here, that our calling doesn't necessarily have to be that huge. So when we hear the word calling and purpose, it's not like, oh, I have to go out and tap rocks and then wind is going to blow and then hurricanes are going to fall, and so I don't want to say that what we have a calling is this huge task. It may actually be something, you know, a little bit small in the grand scheme of things, even though you may not impact millions or thousands. Even if you're called to only impact like 10 or 15, that's still a calling and a purpose. Because again, like we see in Moses' story, what happens is he doesn't reach the promised land, so it kind of continues, like what he started continues, and you know, other things are kind of built on top of that.
Or it could be less people too. Sometimes it could just be those in your family.
Good point.
Those in your family.
Good point. Any other questions or ideas or thoughts about Moses before we get into the deep discussion questions?
No.
Ready? Okay, so the question I have is, have you really figured out your calling?
Nope. That was easy.
That was easy.
Joe says no. I believe it's evolving.
Yeah. That's it?
Yeah.
I would say I'm maybe about 85 to 90% sure. I think you said wow.
She did say wow.
That's like sure.
Well,
So what's your percentage?
So probably, well, so I would say I'm probably 65% sure, but I'm 1% sure of what that actually means, like how I'm going to follow my calling.
Yeah.
So you might know, excuse me, what to do, but not necessarily how to go about doing it. Is that what you're saying, or did I misunderstand?
Kind of, like I feel like I have a passion to do a certain type of work, but
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, so even in the context of me being almost certain, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm comfortable with it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I struggle with it, and I understand what has to happen and some of the things that have to take place. I don't necessarily like the path of the calling all the time, but I think I understand at this point. So, you know, just to speak from my example, I think, well, I know my calling is that first, as it relates to my gifts and skill sets with social media, technology, and that stuff like that, is to help small businesses, nonprofits, churches, religious organizations utilize social media to reach their target audience. So that's one aspect of it. And then the other aspect is to, I don't want to say, so when I say make wholeness more accessible, I associate that directly with my calling, because I realize, like, or what I see is everybody on their cell phones, everybody on their computers all the time, everybody always plugged in. And oftentimes we're plugged into, maybe plugged into some fun things, but there's so much negative energy online and negative things that we consume. So when I say make wholeness more accessible, it's putting these spiritual discussions online, putting, quotes online, putting positive news online, putting, health-related things online. So to use our technology, our devices and stuff like to actually build communities and build us up as opposed to just being distracted by all the negative stuff. So and what happens is, in the realm of those two things, that's how the open box is formed. So even with this idea of being a pastor or starting a church, I think even my calling, let's just say the open box doesn't work out. That doesn't, from my perspective, that doesn't change my calling. That doesn't change what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to reach people. It might just change the venue. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does. Sure does.
All right. So let's see. All right. Wait, what are you gonna say?
No. It just has me thinking about, I remember years ago when I was thinking about calling, what am I here to do? What is my purpose? It was really hard for me and really frustrating, because I felt like I had to figure out that one thing. What is that one thing that it is? And because I had such difficulty figuring it out, I felt like I was behind, or like I was failing in some way. Like I wasn't connecting with God in a way that I needed to. And it was really guilt-ridden and burdensome. And it wasn't until I started to just kind of explore more, and I ended up reading this book called entitled Holy Play. I don't remember who the author is, but it's entitled Holy Play. And the author was talking about kind of being co-creating with God and how things can evolve. And it just opened me up like a lot more to really realize that the thing that I'm called to do, and it reminded me of what you said about the venue or the avenue. Like the avenue can be different or the avenue can change over time, but that actual calling in its simplest form will still be the undercurrent for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that just came to mind.
So I guess the follow-up question is, for those of us who are mostly sure, I wanted to share our call stories if you could summarize your call story in about 120 seconds, what would you say? Could you?
2 minutes?
2 minutes. No,
Seconds.
Seconds. Could you?
2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. You want me to dive in first?
Huh? What is? Okay.
You guys do know we're live, right?
Yeah. That's okay. We're being present in the room.
Okay.
Because they might be watching later.
So you want me to dive into my story first?
No, I want her to dive in.
I don't know, I'm not. I'm only 60%.
Okay, but that means that you know
That
something.
means I got 60 seconds.
60 seconds is okay.
Did you hear? Did you get Burning Bush? A cloud spoke to you.
Oh wait, so what
or
are we saying? How we knew you were called?
Well, just your call story,
Oh,
like your,
what story?
the purpose. Yeah, how you came to your purpose.
Right.
So I believe, and I think that I have multiple, like you were saying, it's not just one thing all the time, but I believe one of my avenues is working with women who have been through sexual and or domestic abuse. And I don't know, again, like what that looks like. I've explored different avenues and volunteered in different things, but I really feel like that, like I feel like God has allowed me to live my story in order to help others do theirs and create theirs.
To help others to what?
Create their story.
Okay.
So yours was more based on experience, and then out of your experience, you felt, because you made it out of your experience, you felt drawn to that particular
Well,
community.
honestly, some of the callers were, but I
really?
still felt like, I don't know, it was just very odd because I've always really felt this draw towards battered and abused and women that are just not where I feel like women should be or could be.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to then live through abuse because I was like, oh, that's interesting because I want to be like on the other side of this table one day.
That's interesting. So you felt the pull of it before, then you had your experience, and now you're still discerning where that's going to take you. What makes you have so many reservations about it? Could you just
About
say
what?
just the whole like where you're going with it?
Well, Brooke, because you know,
You gotta love it when someone says your name.
it's very similar to how I became where I am in my career because I never envisioned how to get there. So I don't know if it's a job. I don't know if it's in a group of people that we had this conversation. I don't know if it's a special session of the open, I don't know what it looks like. So I'm I have reservations of even really completely visualizing it because I can visualize it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't really know what that is, I don't know how to get there. When I'll get there.
I think that's the natural process, though, because even as I started to unravel what this open box thing was going to look like, I sat on the idea or sharing the idea out loud for a long time, maybe at least a year and a half or something like that. Because I remember doing my internships at First Church in Hyattsville, and you know, Pastor Jones, who was my intern leader there, she would push me and ask me, did I feel called to pastor and stuff like that? And I'm like, but then my goals were actually leading to that, but to actually say it out loud was it was uncomfortable. And I don't think I ever fully expressed that I had the idea for a church boy until like towards the end of my 1 year internship there. So I think it's kind of natural. And I remember, I think the first person I actually told outside of Brooke was probably you about it. So maybe that was like a year ago or something like that. And that was like the first time I actually was like, yeah, we got to do this open box thing. So I think the wrestling part is natural progression, because even, we see with Moses. Now, see, the challenging thing about Moses' story is like this backwards and forth discussion, and then he's off. So I think our backwards and forth discussions are usually not like a 5-minute conversation. Like, oh, okay, now I'm going to go to, Egypt and take the people out. It's usually this tug of war, this backwards and forth, and then some people go one direction and they turn it off, and then other people kind of go on. Like for me, I feel like I pulled one direction. I didn't actually have too much time to wrestle. I think in my wrestling, like I had a burning desire to know more. So when I dove into seminary, like at first, I had such a burning desire to know what Brooke was learning. So in the middle of that, I'm like, no, I'm here, but then I'm like, I can't necessarily go backwards. So because I got pulled in one direction, I think going backwards, like it was already closed. So I think my experience was a little bit different, because I wrestled in the middle of being there in seminary and not knowing what the outcome was going to look like. It's because I kind of get eager to get in things, so I'll go in and then question after I'm in the air, or I'm talking like head first, like, oh, what am I supposed to do? I pump my head, it's too late, baby. I shouldn't have jumped.
You sure are. But for me, I feel like it's been about 10 years since I felt. And I had an internship once where I worked at a women's center, and I was like, ooh, I'm close. This is it. But I also was a junior in college, and I was like, I'm not really sure how I'm going to work at a nonprofit after I just went to a private school, So that's one of the causes I don't feel like I'm running from. And I think in some ways in my personal and professional even life, like I am able to kind of touch on it and, talk to people and play the role of whatever women need me to be. But, so yeah, I just think that, like I said, I'm not running. It's just, I'm just taking my time along the path, I guess.
Well, again, like Moses was in the wilderness as a sheep herder for like 20 years. So, I guess. I mean, if you want to be used that 80, you can be used that 80. I guess, right?
Sounds like
All right. So there's that.
Wait, no one else is giving their 120 seconds?
Oh yeah, my bad. All right.
You called me out.
Yeah, you want to give your
She's so
120
good
seconds.
at that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's part of my calling.
Yeah, but give me a 120 second calling.
I don't know. I think from a young age, I was very drawn to just helping people in general. Not changing, but trying to figure out where that was going to be, from wanting to be a psychologist to a dentist to like all these things to help people. And
yeah, I remember the dentist thing. You flossed my teeth.
yeah. Wow, really?
I'm sorry. Yeah, she had an interest in dentistry.
No point to say that, because
That is love.
Yeah, it is.
Dear friends, you know it's love when.
yeah. So my interest in dentistry was high school and into my first year of college. And then once I realized that going into people's mouths is disgusting, I changed my major.
Okay.
So I didn't know him in college. So the fact that he just said that, it's just kind of like,
You
they just make me look gross.
No, I mean you
gross.
still had he was like, oh, I wanted to be a dentist.
No, I have
Like,
no
really?
interest in dentistry.
No, but when you told me, he was like, oh yeah, I used to want to be a
I
dentist.
used to.
Go ahead, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, anyway.
You have great teeth. Most dentists have great teeth.
Thing. Braces. Yeah, so it just kind of kept changing for me to kind of get closer and closer to it. And I think just kind of, I don't even know how I got there. It was just like certain points where I just kept getting closer. Like I felt like I was kind of off because my undergrad major was finance in the end. And then I was like, I can't do numbers. I have to work with people. And so I ended up going to seminary, and then I was really interested in pastoral care. And then the reality set in that because I did not want to be a church pastor, and I really wasn't very comfortable in the hospital, even though I really enjoyed chaplaincy, how am I going to make money?
We'll touch on that too.
And I just kind of felt more drawn to social work, which is like, that's funny, because a lot of social workers don't make money in the world. Especially depending on what you're doing. And, you can make money, but you have to be very strategic in how you do it. So in any case, it just kind of kept like going like this for me to get closer. And then I started to realize over time that one of the things that I really wanted to do, I did not even allow myself to consider, which was life coaching. And that was 10 years ago.
Was life coaching a thing? Has life coaching always been a thing though?
I feel like it was a small thing, and now it has exploded. So back when I was interested in it, it was probably about 2003, 2004, up now longer than 10 years. And so that's when, like, I was watching Starting Over on NBC. Oh my gosh, like I love that show. I was like, oh my God, if I could do anything, I would want to do that. And then I wouldn't do it. Like I didn't even allow myself to do it. And so it was small and it started to grow. And then somehow now we're in a time where everybody's a coach, the life coach, and but so that kind of freed me up to kind of look at different things for myself and where I felt God was guiding me. And so that's why I say it's evolving for me, because kind of where I feel like sometimes I have to go a certain way for me to realize that I'm headed somewhere else, and that along the way, these things are teaching me and allowing me to grow and allowing me to connect with what I need for the thing that's coming.
I hate that part. I'm sorry. I literally just want to go in a straight line. Like, all right, here, like, plug into the matrix, get everything I need, and then I'm Neo. Like, I don't want to, like, I literally don't want to go through this curvy.
Plug into the matrix, get what you
download
need, and then you're Neo. But Neo didn't operate like that. He still had to go back into the matrix.
Yeah, but
he was fighting outside of the matrix.
Yeah, but in the context of about an hour and a half, he was like the one. He, by the end of the movie, 2 hours in, he was dodging bullets. And
yet there was Matrix 1, 2, and 3. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm the one in Matrix 1 and it's over. He still had to go through until whatever happened in the end. I can't remember, whatever.
Not always interested. I mean, it's kind of a thing.
I get that you're not always interested, but I'm saying that even in you wanting to be like Neo wasn't like what you just said. He had to go through. He had to learn. He had to go back in. He had to come out. He had to do all these different things. That's a good theory, at least the first movie. But yeah, so for me, it evolved, and I think I feel like in the moment when you're going through that, it kind of sucks. But for me, it's been helpful for me to kind of look back at certain things and to realize, oh, okay, that thing helped to prepare me for this moment and to prepare me for that moment. And so I feel much more confident in some ways about some of the things that I'm doing, whereas I still struggle though. I still struggle with this thing very much, because then I didn't even include the open box in it. So that's what I mean about like it's evolving, and there's different things and different ways for me that it manifests. And the undercurrent for me, the very simple thing that I believe is to teach and inspire, very basic. And how that comes about, it's going to be how it comes about.
Yeah. All right, so let me dive into mine real quick. So now that I'm like almost 100% sure what I'm going to do, like it's easier to look back at the path, because as it was happening, I'm like, man, whatever. So I was raised in church. My grandmother, was the type of person that would take the neighborhood kids to church. Now we had a storefront church, so she literally did like everything. She was an usher, a trustee. She did the programs. So in terms of my work ethic, as it relates to church, that is directly from my grandmother. I didn't think anything of it. Like one of the pastors there, like our first pastor there when I was growing up, he used to call me like his little delegate. And I think in the AME church that was, I can't remember what it was, but he might have been saying something or speaking something into me that I didn't know at that particular time. Just kind of, okay, cool, I'm a delegate. Didn't even know what it is, still don't really know what it is. So what happened was, I left church, came back. I left church because my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and because of that, I was kind of mad at God because I figured she invested so much into church. Why exactly did she have to go through that? So I took a step back, and then a couple of females got me involved in church. Like they would like come out to Bible study. Another one was like, "Oh, you shouldn't be afraid to pray out loud." I would never pray out loud. Like praying out loud, not me. And she was like, one girl was like, "I'm gonna pray that your fear of praying out loud goes away." I'm like, "Oh no, don't!" And then all of a sudden, I'm like praying out loud at singles ministry conferences. Quick story, like I gave like the shortest prayer. They asked me I got challenged to say the prayer because I think they knew I didn't like to pray out loud. Me and the head guy were kind of going at it. It's like, so why don't you pray then? I'm like, all right. And I was like, God, thank you for the food. Amen. And they was like, hey. One guy came up to me and was like, listen, man, we don't always need all the long prayers. So short prayer was excellent, man. I'm like, all right. So then that kind of unraveled me having the fear of praying out loud. So
now the food's not gonna be cold.
Exactly. So in meeting Brooke, I was involved in church doing audio video, and for me, that's where my church commitment and everything was gonna stop. I was gonna do AV, and that's it. So when we met, we began to have discussions about what she was learning in seminary. Fast forward the story, I wasn't a reader. I had read the Bible. I didn't read anything else except for like websites. I read like 20 of her books in like a year and a half. Like it was insane. And then I told Vin head first into seminary, not knowing what my call was. So I felt like for me, it wasn't a call, it was more like a magnet. So I didn't hear a voice, I was just drawn to it. And even looking back at it, when my aunt passed away, we put together the funeral and stuff like that. And I hadn't started seminary at that point. Like it was, I think my aunt passed away in May or something like that. And we put together the funeral. And one lady was like, "Oh, we can't wait for you to come back and preach." Like, what? Like, it's not me, it's her. I'm like, I'm not even in school. She's about to finish up. She's like, "Don't worry, you'll be in school." I was like, "Uh-uh." And then at the end of the year, I was enrolling in school. So it was like little steps, little nudges. I think I always had the desire to help people. But like getting there was like an interesting process because things had to happen in order for me to get there. So that's my particular story and how that actually happened.
Well, that's interesting because in hearing your story, even though I've heard it multiple times.
Yeah.
You just showed me how I play a role with my calling to teach and inspire.
Oh, good boy.
Thank you. Oh, it's just it is.
That'll be your job.
I didn't say it was over. Say that, but no, just seriously, like sometimes you don't really think about that stuff because you just do, and that's a good thing because then that means that my ego was not involved.
No.
So that's a good thing.
Okay, so with that said,
there are other times for my ego to be involved.
Okay, we'll leave that. Okay, so with that said, what is preventing you from fully pursuing your goal or what you think is your goal? What's preventing you from diving in head first and just accepting that God has commissioned you to do a task?
There's so much other stuff to do. Well, sometimes that is real. Like,
Yeah.
not like it just feels like it would be a major commitment, and I'm just not ready.
Like starting the church and still working full time job.
Exactly. I will support till I can no longer.
That's it.
That's not it, but that's the first thing that popped in my head. So that's true.
Insecurities.
Yeah. I have them.
Yeah.
I've had them too.
Insecurities and I like to call it for myself, not having enough faith in it. You know, I have faith in all the other stuff, but then the faith part plays with my insecurity. So yeah, that is the thing.
I think for me, some of the things that challenge me in pursuing this is like I can see the end goal, but the part in the middle to get to the end goal is gray, or it's like dark. So there's like this wilderness piece that I feel like I have to go through, and it's like if I got the idea, or if I have the concept of my calling in my mind, why exactly is the middle portion gray?
Yeah.
Like I would almost rather know the steps and then be like, oh, this is, I got this at the end, but I got the ending and don't have the middle. So I'm like, it's kind of weird that way for me. So that's kind of what prevents me or what sometimes frightens me about it.
That's what you said too, right? That you kind of know, but not how to get there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Actually, if you think about Moses as we relate it back to Exodus, he knew he was going to free God's people, but the idea of an 83-year-old going to Pharaoh and say, "Hey, let thousands of people go, and we just got to leave y'all with no slaves," is probably why he was like, "It absolutely makes no sense." I understand you just turned a snake into a rod into a snake and made my hand look like a leopard, but to actually free slaves and Moses ain't have no army. He only had his brother, so they went in, 2 people deep and was like, let these people go. So like there was probably a huge gray area for him too.
Yeah, that's interesting though, because mine is not like that. Mine is, I know certain things to do to get there, but what there is, I'm not exactly sure.
Maybe we could merge our 6 skill sets and you could help me map out the gray and help you map out the end.
So you know how to get there?
Yeah, like I know
your middle part is clear, but your end part is gray.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, like I know certain things. Like I've certain things that come up for me to do. So I know like certain things to do, but then where it would lead to, I'm not 100% sure.
So here's a question for you. Since you know what you have to do, are you doing those things?
Insecurities and fear get in the way at times.
Okay.
So sometimes, yes, and then other times,
Is it the insecurity with not knowing the end?
oh no. A little bit of the unknown can be fearful for me, but the insecurity can just be within me. Just some of my own stuff that still, even though I've worked through a lot to get myself, or God to get me to this point in my life. Everything ain't worked out. There's still some things that I still have to grow in.
Yeah.
To help me along.
Interesting. All right. So now that we kind of have our calling, our ideas about our calling on the table, I want to ask a few questions that will help clear up some of what we have to do, or give you tools for those people who are watching online or also watching the replay. Some things that will actually help put you in a place to know your calling and know your purpose. Actually, before I get into the questions, one of the things that helped me tremendously was the Myers-Briggs. So I'm an ENTJ, and everything that test says about me is 100% true. So just Google Myers-Briggs, take a test. It's probably like 100 questions or so, and it gives you your personality traits. And oftentimes it'll associate careers and jobs that kind of fit your personality, whether it's extra. I'm an ENTJ, so that's slightly extrovert. N is intuitive, yeah. T is ENT, thinking, and J is judging. Yeah. So for me, I tend with the outcome of it. It says I tend not to like things that are unorganized, and when I'm in situations that are unorganized, I look to fix them, which is right on the money. So I would say first thing you need to do is know your personality. I particularly think some of these tools are put here, even though they come through men, that they're inspired by God to help us get places, but because they're not biblical, we kind of shun them or frown on them. But I think Myers-Briggs actually will help you out. So some further questions to ask is, okay.
And there are gifts. Have you ever taken a gift survey?
Like a spiritual,
Spiritual gifts?
inventory? Yeah.
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 I haven't taken like years, so I can't say what it looks like, but I just
Yeah, I haven't.
Yeah.
I've taken one before. I haven't found any up-to-date ones. A lot of them tend to be a little bit older. But what I'll do is I'll put some links, on the video when we post the vlog.
Yeah, I remember that the spiritual gifts inventory was. There's so many out, so I don't know which one at this point. But one of the ones that I did use was actually helpful. Because one of my gifts was around teaching, teaching and wisdom and knowledge and something else. I can't remember the fourth one now, but those really tied in. So when I think about, and that helps me to kind of look at those basically to see, okay, they can manifest, however they manifest, those are going to be there. So that's actually a good one.
Actually, but here's an interesting point. So when I did my spiritual gifts assessment years back, I think the first one was like helping, and then pastor was like number 7. So, but then, for me, looking at it, if I didn't realize like patterns in my life, I'd be like, oh, it's number 7. So, but there's always been a pattern with number 7 in my life as it relates to just numbers. So I was born on January 14th, 77, and a billion other things like 77 Columbia Street I lived in. A lot of my phone numbers have 77. So when I went back and looked at it, it was like, oh, wait a minute, this is. Yeah, so because it's not at the top, I kind of just like, But when I look back at it, so you kind of have to also know some of the patterns and actually how God speaks in your life. So, all right, so you have the Myers-Briggs, you have the spirituality gift assessment, and here are some questions. So one of the questions you should ask yourself is, what are you most passionate about, and what annoys the hell out of you? So usually when you find your passion or find an annoyance, like something that irks your nerves or something that you want to fix, that can usually draw you to what your calling is. So like when you see Moses was fed up with the way his people were being treated. He kills the Egyptian, and then 20 years later or so, he's called to do that, but in a non-violent way, to save his people in a non-violent way. Another question is, let's see, this. Who and what are you drawn to? So are you drawn to a certain community? Are you drawn to individuals? Are you drawn to children? Do you have a passion for elderly people? Do you have a passion for people who have mental health disabilities? So in terms of figuring out your call, like sometimes you may not necessarily see or hear a voice, but if you may feel a pull in a certain direction, whether it's to a cause or an actual community. Also, what interests you had as a child? Brooke mentioned that you had interest in helping people, and it's kind of manifested into, her calling now. Were your interests as a child, or did they come later on? Do you remember when?
Teenager,
okay.
You have to be, you have to notice the patterns and things that you're drawn to in your life, because my main interest as a child was being a singer.
what?
A singer.
A singer.
I've never heard you sing.
I'm horrible. I'm a horrible singer.
But were you gonna sing the gospel and call people into
I was gonna sing like Whitney Houston and Janet Jackson. Okay. And I still have not let that go.
We're not gonna talk about those singers.
We need to play the worship team.
Oh, you don't want me. You don't want me.
You just kind of, this is a little not really completely addressing the question you just asked. You just made me have an aha moment, or God was speaking to me. And your question was, who or what are you drawn to? And it kind of just all came full circle really quickly from everything that I just said. But I have, for the last 2 years, I have noticed that I'm very drawn to broken people. And the pattern has been to date those people. And
I've experienced that.
which leaves me like in a completely messed up place. And it really made me wonder if I had missed my calling for certain people in my life. because I wasn't working on the calling. But even in being drawn to broken people, what does that mean, and what does that mean about myself? What are things that need to be repaired or fixed or healed in me that, because in the type of calling that I have, that's typically what people are. I mean, the people that I describe that I feel like I'm called to work with are people that are broken. Yeah. So yeah, I just would like to share my God's voice.
So let me piggyback that right here. So that used to happen to me when I dated people. Like I would get in these relationships and then try to be Mr. Fix It. And it was just happening that way. So I think sometimes like love and compassion in terms of just being like, Christian or godly sometimes can get overlapped with like romantic love. And I got caught in those situations a couple of times. And I remember one time really, really trying to pour out into this individual, my ex, in terms of spirituality, scripture, all this stuff. And then somebody asked me, was like, well, what made you think you were supposed to date her? And I was like, and I'm like, I actually don't know. And then she pointed out, like, well, do you actually pray about the individual you date, or like, do you actually ask God if you're supposed to date them or not? I was like, no, who does that? And she was like, well, you need to start doing it. And then finally, somebody was like, you know what? You have a Jesus complex. Like, you're not, like, although you're supposed to help and stuff like that, you have to check that. She was telling me I had to check that at the door because it begins to become dangerous if you think you can just go and fix everything. Sometimes you put yourself in circumstances that you're not necessarily either ready for or supposed to be in. So then I had to kind of gauge, I need to be able to help people from a distance and not necessarily get in romantic relationships with these individuals.
Because there can be a cost to that.
Yeah.
I think there what?
There's a cost.
I said there's a cost to that. Yeah, it's heartbroken.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that right now, but yes, I did have.
My dad actually even told me once, stop trying to be a savior and show the savior.
That's a sweet one right there. Say that one more time.
Stop trying to be the savior and show the savior.
Tweet that out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Hashtag Master Coffee.
Hashtag Coffee.
All right, let's see how much time we have left. So there's that. So we talked about what you're drawn to, what your interests were as a child. Another question you could ask yourself, or actually just ask other people, what strengths do they see in you? So a lot of times we may not be able to see it ourselves. Other people may be able to say, hey, well, I can tell that you have a passion for women. Even, I don't know if the individual who spoke to you said you had a particular strength, but she spoke something to you about your calling at one point. Remember you said before you were called, you had a conversation with the individual, she made you cry and all that stuff.
Oh, okay, that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had mentioned pastors.
Did she?
Mm-hmm. But she said it she said you keep getting stuck on it looking a certain way. And it doesn't have to look the way that you think it looks.
You got told that twice?
What?
Not by, I'm not talking about when we were together. I'm talking about before. Didn't you have another call?
A phone call? Oh.
Face to face with, I don't know if was she a coach?
It was on the phone with a life coach. I had a phone conversation with a life coach. No, she just told me, that I never forget this visual that she gave me, that it's like you're at a buffet table, and if you don't make a decision, you're preventing other people from being served. It always stuck with me, and that even speaks to kind of co-creating with God, that it's not just God is laying something in us. We have to do something with it. We have to do something about it. And so she told me that, and in my conversation with her, probably the only time I've ever heard a voice, and it was not her, was about going to seminary. That's what I heard. Yeah.
So that's an interesting question to wrestle with, and maybe we can draw that out a little bit later. Is if you prevent, or if you're waiting and not moving on your call, what's happening to the people who are
who are you
called?
preventing from being served?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
that's
what are
pretty
the consequences
of that.
Yeah.
of them not getting served?
Yeah, we don't know the consequences of Moses' story.
You think it makes you nauseous?
It just got real.
Yeah, that's actually. Yeah.
It-
I gotta remind myself of that at times too.
We
When
don't-
I'm like stuck.
I don't see. I'm trying to think of. We don't necessarily know the consequences of this 20-year wait with Moses. We could probably only try to fill in the blanks. And I don't think there's. I can't remember any call stories where people kind of wrestled and waited, and then they were like, "Well, because you waited, X, Y, and Z happened." So I'll do some research on that and try to figure out if there's anything even outside of the biblical text that speaks to that, like waiting on your call, and then this is what happens.
I'm gonna reach over, get my
One
phone,
thing
I'm gonna tweet.
we can assume is that because of the 20-year wait, Moses never made his promises. So, I mean, had he acted 5 years faster, would he have made it? We don't know, because obviously we didn't create the story, but it could be one of those thoughts of what could we miss out in the future of our lives or our children's lives or whoever,
Yeah.
because we're not willing to act on what we know we're called to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. All right. So we're getting short on time, but all right. So I'm just gonna rehash the things we talked about. We talked about doing assessments. So there's a Myers-Briggs assessment. There is a spiritual gifts assessment. We talked about understanding what you're drawn to. We talked about what your interests were as a child. We talked about asking people what your strengths are, what people actually see on you. We also talked about paying attention to things that annoy you and things that you are passionate about. So your call may be in that moment to where you're aggravated or frustrated or actually passionately drawn to something. And all right, which question? I have two hard questions
Oh boy.
that I'm trying to figure out. I'm gonna ask the one that I've been wrestling with, and we've had discussions about this. So you figure out your call, right?
Yep.
You're there, you're comfortable, you wrestle, you got through the wilderness period, and you're on the path. Now this is I'm gonna read this because I pulled this from someplace. Because one of the questions that always comes up in calling on purpose articles is, what would you do if money and or fear were an option? So I want to focus on the money part. What would you do if money were not an option? And then the follow-up quote that I saw somewhere is, if you could do anything and take a pay cut, what would it be? So my question against that is, although you may have to take a pay cut, should you have to blow up your financial goals and resources in order to pursue your call?
Should you have to blow it up?
Yeah,
What do you mean, like?
take it like, should you have to not necessarily go broke, but should you like, so depending on what your calling is, you may have to take a pay cut, but should you be expected to take a pay cut because you're called to do ministry or called to do something charitable? Now, while you guys think about that, I would say initially I was like, well, no, I'm gonna use my gifts for the kingdom of God, and God's gonna bless me on the other end, and I don't subscribe to that anymore. I don't. I'm sorry. Like, there are gifts and talents, and I think for me, I could do charitable work, but when it comes to business and being compensated, I have to be compensated fairly, right? Because in the context of being compensated fairly, I'm a good steward with my finances, so I'm going to pay my bills. I'm going to be able to donate and, do charitable works in other areas. So I used to think like, well, no, I'll be blessed. I'll take a pay cut and do all this stuff like that. I don't know if I subscribe to that. Right now, I'll probably say that.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like in some regard it might happen, especially initially,
Yeah.
depending on how you navigate it. But I think it's kind of weird because if we were talking about a calling, like say if I was talking about a calling to be an artist or musician, money is, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about a calling to pastor, people look at that differently. And they'll look at it like, oh, why are you driving that car? And look at your house, like you are picked apart.
Ooh, yeah, you're right about that.
And so it's tough because they feel like, well, you're supposed to be helping people, and then you have people in your congregation who might struggle financially. So why should you? And I feel like it's really touchy. Like, so I don't know. But then you have certain people who are in ministry who they have high membership. But sometimes you could just not have a high membership. You can just have people in your congregation who make a lot of money. So then that impacts the money you make. Or you can have a mega church. If you have thousands of people, that impacts the money you make. You can be on TV, you know, your Joyce Myers, your Joel Osteen, whatever.
Or you can have a pastor that has other business ventures, like books and speaking deals and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right, and have another business that they're working on. So I feel like my answer would be the same, but I feel like people are going to look at it like it's different.
Yeah.
And I think it's different for the person. Because I think there are people that, like for me, I don't feel like I would be trusted. Like I would have to take a financial pay cut, but I do feel like my financial priorities would need to change. You know, like once I understand, if it's not lucrative, but if it's paying me well financially, like I know that I probably should not be on Macy's.com every other day, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at it that way too, but you're right, absolutely. When it's in ministry,
Right.
it's not a good thing, and I'm using air quotes, to have nice things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about when people start business. In many ways, they take pay cuts. Well, no matter what, whether you're starting a church or you're starting a product line or whatever. Like initially, you might have to because you left the comfort of a full-time job. You left those benefits, the insurance and everything, and you come over here. So I think in some ways you will take a cut. Do you have to stay there? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Know how much you make, that's different, you know. So I think I'm okay initially.
Yeah.
But I don't think I need to live there. Like I'm always gonna be here. And then I better be a serious extreme couponer and something else for that to make sense.
I think, and I'll summarize by saying this, I think we're coming up on time. Once our calling is molded and once we're kind of comfortable working with God as it relates to who we're supposed to be and what our commission is, I think one thing that I had heard people talk about is actually having boundaries, or not necessarily guarding your calling, but knowing when and how to use it. Because sometimes when you get excited about God or enthusiastic, you pour everything into a particular area. And I don't think you necessarily have to do that all the time. So you have to be in communication with God to figure out, all right, do you want me to give all of myself, and then how long does this have to take place? And then actually praying about like, how should I be compensated for this? Because we do have, bills and stuff to pay. So I think and it gets tricky with church because churches need volunteers, and then sometimes churches aren't able to pay people financially. But I think the church and the individuals have to do a little bit of a better job at kind of negotiating and navigating these points in terms of how we use people. Because I've experienced burnout in church and at other places, and it's not a comfortable place to be at. And oftentimes when people get burned out from using their whole selves as it relates to their calling, sometimes there's no coming back from that. So I just want to say, be aware that once you have your calling, utilize your skill set wisely, take breaks, definitely take Sabbaths, because you don't want to get to a place where you're burnt out and just tired of actually operating. So that's it. Peace and blessings. What do we want to do? So this Sunday we're going out to Franklin Square. Again, I know I've been saying that Franklin Square, but it's actually Franklin Square in DC. We're going to be feeding the homeless second Sundays. We do service in the community. This week we're going to do sandwiches and water again. What I want you to do is log on to the website. It's theopenbox.com/serve. So if you want to help us financially, you can click the donate button there. Or if you want to join us, simply shoot us an email at info@theopenbox.com. I think we're going to go out for 10 o'clock, 11. Typically, I think we did
10, or did we say 9:30?
We didn't say anything. 10. So we're going to be in the park at 10. Follow us on social media, theopenbox.com. I'm at Mr. Terrell Harris. She's at Landon Brooke. You want to start giving out your social media?
At loco_joker.
At loco_joker.
Joker. LOCO_JOCO. Anything else I'm missing? That's it. Thanks for joining us. Also, finally, we are building our team. So if you want to join a community where you're challenged to become a leader, if you want to join a community where you have engagement in terms of spirituality, Jesus Christ, discussions on health and everything like that, please join us. We need help with, we need financial support, we need prayers, we need people who are doing graphics, marketing, financial.
We need you.
Yeah, just you. Just join. And that link is theopenbox.com/join us. There we list out everything that we need and in terms of the effort. So hope to see you in person. Peace and blessings. Yeah, kid.